Number the star. Our story today is historical fiction. To know what a historical fiction is, I think we need to read the introduction on page 674. With Nazi soldiers occupying Copenhagen, Denmark in 1943, Anne-Marie Hansen travels with her mother and younger sister Christy to her Uncle Henrik's house on the Danish coast. Uncle Henrik and Peter Nelson, the fiancé of Anne-Marie's older sister, are helping Danish Jews escape in Henrik's boat to safety in Sweden. What is going on? Here we have a number of characters. We have Germany occupying Denmark, and we have people called the Nazi and the Jews. Germany occupied Denmark and other countries from 1939 to 1945. Is that real? Yes. Has this really happened? Yes. During World War II. The German rulers, they were called the Nazi, and they were against the Jews. There were Jews inside Germany and outside Germany. The Nazi rulers were against the Jews inside Germany and outside Germany in the countries that they occupied. The meaning of the word occupying, it means taking some other country's land by force. When you are a ruler and you take your soldiers and you mobilize to another country to take its land, this way you occupied the land. So the soldiers of Germany at the time occupied Copenhagen, and Copenhagen is the capital of Denmark. Has this really happened? Yes. So why do we call it a fiction? This is not a 100% fictional story. A historical fiction, it's a fictional story set in the past with a setting that people really lived. The setting of the story is real. It's a part of history. All what we said now has really happened. What about the characters? Christy and Marie and Uncle Henrik? No, these people didn't exist. And accordingly, all the details in the story are purely fictional, out of the author's mind. And of course, the sayings and the words that those characters said aren't real. So this is a historical fiction. A historical fiction, it's a fictional story, but the setting, the time and the place, and what was happening generally at the time is real. That's why we call it historical, a part of history, and the fiction. It's out of the author's mind. All the details of the story are fictional, apart from the general setting and the surroundings. Now let's check the meanings of the words. We said that occupying is an adjective that means taking another country's land by force. And occupy is the verb, of course. Exasperated means disappointed. The sentence says, Anne-Marie gave an exasperated sigh. Could I go now, please? This way, this tone. This is a disappointed character speaking. Later we have the word implore. Please, please, she implored in her mind, don't lift the napkin. Implored means begged. To beg someone is to ask him or her please so many times, and you're almost on your knees. You are imploring this person to do you something. The next word is intently. Both dogs still looked intently at the basket. Intently means carefully. Then we have a question, and from this question we will move to the next page. Anne-Marie gives the soldier a withering look. What is the meaning of this phrase? Withering means a very devastating look, destroying look. Anne-Marie gave him a withering look. You know we have no meat, she said insolently. Your army eats all of Denmark's meat. What meat are you searching for? She has this hateful look on her face. Find another example of figurative language. Another example, withering was a figurative language? Yes, because the look cannot devastate. And devastate means destroy. So here it's a metaphor. And of course you remember what a metaphor is. A metaphor is comparing something to another thing without using the words as or like. Find another example of figurative language at the top of page 675 and tell what it means. We will move to 675. Anne-Marie froze. This could be a figure of speech. It could be a metaphor comparing Anne-Marie to ice, freezing. Froze here means stopped. She didn't move at all. Let's continue reading to find another example of figurative language. Your uncle has a pretty little lunch, the soldier said scornfully. Scornfully means hatefully, with disgust, with dislike. The soldier said scornfully, crumpling the napkin around the cheese in his hand. Like a woman, he added with contempt. And contempt means with disrespect. With contempt, with disrespect. Of course, the word contempt is a noun that accordingly means disrespect. The next line, then his eyes locked on the basket. You know the lock, you cannot unlock a lock without a key. His eyes were like a lock on the basket. So this way, it's a metaphor. The author here is comparing the eyes of the soldier to a lock. So we have two examples. What is the meaning of the second example? The meaning of the words or the sentence, then his eyes locked on the basket. It means that he kept looking at it because he thinks that there might be something wrong with the basket. At the end of the page, there is another word, subsided. And subsided means relaxed, started to relax. Page 677, we have the word strident, and the strident means sharp or loud. Let's read the example. The morning sky was now bright with early sun, and some of the boat engines were starting their strident din. Din means noise, and you know the sound of the engines? It's noise, it's strident din. Strident noise, sharp and loud noise. We have a question at the end of the page. The question says, actually there are three questions. How does Anne-Marie react to being stopped and questioned by the German soldiers? In the beginning, she has a challenging attitude. As you saw, she tried to answer with an angry tone. The second part, how does her behavior change from the beginning of her encounter with the soldiers to the end of it? She becomes so worried, but later she puts herself together, although she feels so terrified. Because she saw her uncle's lunch being destroyed on the ground. So she was really sad and upset and terrified and scared of those soldiers. But she didn't collapse. She put herself together. What does Anne-Marie's attitude with the soldiers tell you about her character? Now it's your time to give me a character trait. Out of her reactions, how can you describe her in one or two words? She is, yes, strong and brave. She is strong and brave. On page 678, we have the word warily. But the noise from Blossom is the name of the cow. It's a proper noun. But the noise from Blossom, forgotten, unmilked, uncomfortable in the barn, had sent Anne-Marie warily out with the milking bucket. Warily means without being sure. She just went out with the milking bucket to check the cow, but she's not sure if the cow is making noise because of this. Warily means without being sure. And of course it's an adverb. Six hundred eighty. We have the word confronting. Confronting is an adjective that means facing. You can use the word confront and say confront means face. The sentence, Anne-Marie remembered the shiny boots confronting her on the dark. Confronting her, in front of her, facing her. On the last page, 682, we have a question. What would happen if Anne-Marie had not delivered the handkerchief to Uncle Henrik in time? As we saw, or as we listened to in the audio, Uncle Henrik needed the napkin. This napkin distracted the dogs from sniffing and smelling and knowing about the existence of the people who want to escape. So, if this napkin were not there, what would happen? If this napkin hadn't been there, what would have happened? Actually, the dog's sense of smell wouldn't have been ruined. They would have found the escaping people. No napkin with that strange scent, with that strange smell. The dogs would be healthy and they can smell anyone. If the dogs were healthy to smell anyone, they would find anyone who wanted to escape. So, but for the napkins, all of the escaping people would be found. Who brought the napkin? It's Anne-Marie. The question again, what would have happened if Anne-Marie hadn't delivered the handkerchief to Uncle Henrican time, I kept saying napkin, guys. It's the handkerchief. What would happen if this handkerchief hadn't been delivered? The dog's sense of smell wouldn't have been ruined. They here refers to the dog. They would have found the escaping people.